had an amazing day at the flea market, and I'm gonna show you guys all of the stuff that I found, but it wasn't until I got home that I realized that I literally had found something from every decade in American history, from like the early 1900s all the way to the 1960s. There's some amazing stuff that was made right here in America. So today we are gonna be going over some good old fashioned Americana. Sit tight and enjoy the ride. One of the very first things that I found, and something that I absolutely love, is old industrial lighting. This is from a company called Russell & Stoll, and they started in New York in the early 1900s. They specialized in a lot of nautical stuff, things for ships, lighting and lanterns and that kind of stuff. So everything has this really cool sort of industrial vibe to it. They have the name of the company right here on the top, so you can actually look them up fairly easily. They only wanted $20 for this, so of course I'm gonna grab this. What do we call the 1910s? Like, the 1910s? You got the 20s, you got the 30s, you got the 40s, you got the 50s. What do you call the 10s? Anyways, I have something from the 1910s to show you guys. Oh my gosh. So this thing, you guys, was such a cool find. So this would have been somewhere on a street in some city. So if there was a fire, you just like lifted this thing up and then you flip this little switch and it would alert everybody on the block. Then you could run and find cover. And it's dirty, it's old, and I like it. We had the Chicago fires in the late 1800s and then the San Francisco fires in the early 1900s, so they were not joking around. It was super important that people knew if there was a fire so that they could protect themselves, they could escape to safety, because it was really, really common back then for fires to burn down huge parts of cities. This particular one has a name on it. It's from Harrington. So the later models are gonna say Gamewell on them. This particular one is pre-Gamewell, which means that it is from the 1910s, I guess. I still don't know what we call the 1910s. So going from the 1910s to the 1920s. And the thing that I found at the flea market from the 1920s was a butter churner. A butter churner. People still had to make butter, so I'm gonna show you guys this. This is a Daisy butter churner. This company actually started making these in the early 1900s. This particular one is probably from the 1920s. It's got the company name there on the top, and it's got all kinds of stuff here, little situation things need to move so that this can happen down here. They still make a really, really similar model to this that you can use to churn butter. There's still a way to churn butter. And this is really big, you guys. This is so much butter. You wouldn't have to churn butter for like a year. I feel like it would be maybe a little bit easier just to go and buy your butter. And now we're gonna step into the 1930s, ladies and gentlemen. So Hollywood was sort of at the center of pop culture at this point in time because sound was just added to film and everybody was like super excited about this new development in the film industry. You could now go and listen and watch. Everything had this like Art Deco kind of Hollywood stylized look to it. And I thought that I found this like amazing pair of Art Deco sconces, and I found these on, I think it was Craigslist, and I'm thinking to myself, those will be great. Somebody would love those. Put them next to your bed, you just turn them on in the middle of the night, you can go get yourself a glass of water or a glass of milk or maybe a muffin, depending on how you're feeling. I walk up to the house. You guys, look at, what are these? Look at the size of these things. Like, look at how big they are next to my shoe. Where were these even used? These sconces belong to elephants in the zoo? What would these have been used for? One thing that I'm really, really bad at is asking, one, about sizes, and then two, I'm also really bad about saying no. What did I just do? You guys, these things, like, you could literally take them apart and use the pieces to build a home for a small family. They take up my whole car. Who's gonna buy these? This is absolutely insanity, and I felt so bad that I ended up loading these up in my car anyway. Guys, I don't even think I can ship these. I think these are so far above like FedEx's measurement options that I think I'm just stuck with them. If anybody wants them, I'm thinking of just putting them out on the side of the road. You can just take them. It's a good reminder to always ask for the size of something before you just decide to go in and buy it, if you know what I mean. So moving on to the 1940s. I don't know why I made it seem like a Western song. I don't think that the 1940s were particularly Western. Westernish. Something that we did have in the 1940s was World War II. So there's all kinds of amazing memorabilia from World War II. And one of the things that I absolutely love is trench art. Trench art is literally art that was made in the trenches. During World War I is when trench art really became popular. And basically it was soldiers in the trenches making art out of the things that they had discarded. So like old shells from guns and different things that they had laying around, they would make these amazing things, and you can find lamps and you can find vases and statues and weapons. There's all kinds of amazing trench art that came out of World War I. But what happened was in World War II, they realized, oh, we can make money on that. There's actually a lot of trench art from World War II that wasn't even made by soldiers. It was made by civilians. It was literally just made to make money. So like this particular piece here was from World War II. It's made from an old shell. It's got etching on it. It's dated, but it actually says right here, it's a souvenir. This was still really cool. I got a really good deal on it, so I definitely wanted it. It's still collectible. People will still want something like this. When you think of the 1950s, you think of poodle skirts and you think of diners and you think of like, I don't know, 1950s Cadillacs cruising up and down the boulevard. So what I have for you today is building off of the diner culture. I have for you an old vintage menu board from a diner in the 1950s. It's still very hard to actually find Dr. Pepper advertising. There's a lot of Pepsi, there's a lot of Coca-Cola that comes out of this time, but Dr. Pepper was not super common. And this particular piece is a Dr. Pepper menu board. It's super dirty. There's like dead spiders falling out of it, which is kind of awful. But then the back, you have this thing here where you could actually put the pieces of paper that you would slide into these little slots so you could tell people what you were offering. But like, I love this time. The whole culture at that time was so interesting. I mean, now we've got like Tinder and all these dating apps. Back in the day, when this thing was around, you had to like go down to the diner and maybe hold a girl's hand if you were feeling real crazy. Tell her you like dries. Anyways, this thing is very cool. I really, really like this. They wanted $35 for it. I gave them $35 for it. And now I have dead spiders all over me. Great, wonderful, congratulations. And now you guys, last but not least, we're gonna move into the 1960s. And the 1960s had all kinds of amazing stuff going on. One of those things were lunchboxes, because this was back when parents still made their kids lunches. This particular lunchbox is from a radio show called Gunsmoke. This was actually one of the most popular radio shows from the 1950s. It went on into the 1960s, and it actually became a television series, which was one of the most popular primetime television series of the time. And this guy had a table full of these old tin lunchboxes. For anyone that I wanted, it was $25. So normally, in a situation like this where a seller just throws a bunch of stuff on a table and they say $25 for whatever you want, they're all obviously going to be worth different amounts of money. So I will spend time going through them and finding the ones that are worth more than $25, and I will buy those ones for $25. This particular one is super collectible. The condition is definitely an issue, but it's worth more than $25 for sure. The funny thing was all of the other ones were worth about $25. But this is really cool because this has a really good history to it. The inside's not in terrible shape. It would have had a thermos that would have gone in there at one point. You guys, thank you for coming with me on my walk through American history. From the 1900s to the 1960s, we have seen some really, really cool stuff that America has produced throughout the years. So I hope you guys like that. Let me know in the comment section below what your favorite thing was that you saw today. And please, if you haven't hit that subscribe button, make sure you do it now so you don't miss future episodes. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.